Hello, you're watching news from Kazakhstan. It is Friday, November 2nd, and I'm Askar Sharif. He gave no order to shoot at people, didn't contact Rahat Aliyev, didn't betray Nazarbayev, and has no intention to. Former Chief of Staff Aslan Musin and current Chairman of the Accounts Committee gave a written interview to Guljan.org. In rather dry tones, the official said he personally asked the president to be taken down from his post since he was unable to cope with the amount of work required. His relation with Bergir Iskaliyev was strictly professional, and he has no idea where the brothers are currently. Musin also commented on the events in Zhanaozen.
I learned about the unrest in Zhanaozen on December 16, 2011, around 12:30 p.m. from reports of law enforcement officials. Neither I nor the leadership of the country ordered the use of firearms.
Zhanaozen Mayor Baurjan Muhamedjanov commented on the idea of rebranding the town into Beketata offered by the town's elders. As newspaper Lada reports, the governor received 6 other ideas for renaming the oil town. Moreover, Muhamedjanov announced that every resident of the region can write him or the regional parliaments with their own offers. In the meantime, our reporters listened to residents' opinions regarding the possible change.
So far, we have not received any official letters that provided instructions. Otherwise, we cannot do it since everyone is at work. There was a union meeting on Wednesday at 6 p.m. where people discussed persistent problems after working hours. The employees of major Zhanaozen enterprises still do not know whether public hearings will be held at their workplace regarding the renaming of the settlement. Yet they're all aware of the issue, expecting the town to switch names any minute now. It has been called Ozian for as long as our people lived here. Aldabay is one of the local elders who has been living in Zhanaozen for nearly half a century. The authorities should not have done it, he says, and they also picked the wrong name. I believe that people are not going to support this. The name of Beketata should not be used in such a manner. We must respect the spirit of our ancestors as if he was our father or a grandfather. Nobody, not even small children, should use his name in vain. The Regional Museum of Zhanaozen stores no document that would indicate the ancient name of the place. According to legend, the name of the area came from a comparison to a river, since water in the desert brings life. Now, Aldabay, the elder, plans to meet with the promoter of the rebranding idea, Asylbek Aydarov, and question him about the intentions. I don't know why he did it. I want to ask who authorized him to do so, and most importantly, why did he do it? Maybe he was ordered to do so. Unfortunately, he's not here now. In all honesty, it is quite difficult to get a hold of Asylbek Aydarov in Zhanaozen. His phones are off and he is out of touch.
Caspian State University students in Aktau oppose the name change. They believe it is inappropriate and untimely. Residents of Zhanaozen also reacted to the offer to rename the town to Beketata. Let us turn our attention to what they had to say. We have recently had a meeting with the local administration head who confirmed there was nothing more than a discussion in progress. We said we would prefer a face-to-face meeting with people who came up with the idea rather than having endless discussions. If Ozganbayev, Aydarov and the elders have enough courage to speak on behalf of the people, let them face us at a round table and lay out the grounds for their decision. What if something else happens tomorrow? All the mud will be slung at Zata, right? This is wrong. It's a sacred site. I'm totally against this. I heard there would be a meeting in the city maternity department, but we, the staff, will not support the initiative. It is insulting to name such a dirty city after the holy man. These are underhand practices of former communists who will stoop to anything to destroy their own history. They are the ones who have been glorifying Lenin for 75 years by calling him a grandfather. Take anyone, Bazarbayev in particular. This is unacceptable. If they can't wait to change everything, they should hold a referendum. If they don't like the word Uzen and are longing for spiritual purity, they could have opted for naming the city Imam. Personally, I don't mind the change. I was not getting into details as to whether it's required or not. I'm old enough to let imams decide which way to go. Director of Golos Respubliki newspaper Danyar Moldashev's brother Askar was detained in Almaty by the Arlan Special Unit. Allegedly, drugs were found in his pockets as he was searched. He was able to contact his relatives only 12 hours after the arrest, while later in the evening, Askar Moldashev's brother Danyar's and his parents' house were searched. Details next.
It is quite lively in the neighborhood despite the late hour. The investigator, experts, and law enforcement officers are conducting searches in the apartments of Moldashov brothers. They all live in the same building. The people in plain clothes are mostly frustrated by photo and video cameras. Askar's apartment was the first to be searched. His wife, Moldashova Tatiana, recalls what had happened. The search is conducted in connection with my husband's arrest. I did not know anything about it and I was not warned. Suddenly they started knocking on the door, scared me and my child. They told me to open the door and I said I would open as soon as my brother came. They nearly forced the door open. Then they entered. My husband's younger brother arrived and the search began. An investigator and two girls walked in the apartment. One of them was taping, another one was observing. There were two witnesses, our neighbors. After that, the search continued in the apartment of Daniyar Moldashov, director of Golos Respubliki newspaper, Askar's brother. Friends and colleagues demand that the investigation team involve them as identifying witnesses. We want to be present to make sure that you follow the rules and the law, so that you would not plant anything on him. He is the director of the publication Golos Respubliki, and I insist that mass media be allowed in. These are your own problems. But we have the right to come in. You do not have the right to be here. The most interesting thing was when the investigation started communicating with a group of people involved as identifying witnesses by the police. I am a very famous person in certain circles. I am a responsible man. I was walking home from work and I was stopped and detained. I am a public person because I work on Route 79 and 32. The situation changes all of a sudden, and it is getting harder and harder to keep track of everything in this detective story. This witness makes a confession after 2 minutes. Do you work with him? Is he with you? Field officer. Is this how you changed? The search in the apartments of Moldashov brothers did not bring any results. The wife of arrested Askar Moldashov says that it could have been an entirely different scenario. I saw him sitting there with a small bag in his pocket. He was reaching for it as if he were reaching for the phone, and I could see a tiny bag with a white powder, just like flour. I attracted everyone's attention to him, saying that something was about to fall out of his pocket. My neighbor Katya saw it too. He said it was his. I asked him why he was reaching into his pocket. He said he wanted to take out his cell phone and light something up. I asked him why did he need a flashlight if the lights were on in the room. He put it back and nothing fell out of his pocket. The search of Askar Moldashov's car did not bring any results either. Laptops and flash storage devices were seized by law enforcement. However, the investigation refused to provide an inventory of the searched and seized items. It was revealed on Thursday that the Moldashov brothers have been subjected to pressure since October 17th. The website Respublika published Askar Moldashov's handwritten letter with its authenticity confirmed by his brother Daniyar and spouse Tatiana. In the letter addressed to his friends, family, and colleagues, Moldashov says that the National Security Committee employees offered him and his brother to systematically submit reports about the staff of the newspaper Golos Respubliki. When Askar Moldashov refused, he was threatened with prosecution and imprisonment. Quote, "Consider anything that happens to us, including accidents, instigated criminal cases, etc., a provocation on the part of the NSC," end quote, writes Askar Moldashov.
One of Kazakhstan's well-known ketchup and mayonnaise companies is at odds with the officials. On Thursday, November 1st, employees rallied in support of the company and its management. They suspect the factory's territory of 4,000 square meters may be privatized by the local government. The company's director is convinced this is another attempt at a corporate raid, otherwise known as a legal takeover. We reviewed both sides of the story.
Yelena Raikova, the director of a mayonnaise, ketchup, and mustard production factory, is aggrieved with the actions of local officials. Staff members are holding a protest rally with billboards in their hands. Never-ending inspections by numerous regulatory authorities result in stalling of the plant operations and product supplies, thus affecting salaries and the company's image. Raikova is convinced that her plant is being subjected to corporate raiding. Until now, I had failed to understand how it is possible to dispossess of somebody's land, even with the help of government officials. I bought these land plots bit by bit back in 1996. This took me selling all of my property and investing all the money I had. The business object at hand indeed presents special interest to the authorities. The entrepreneur has started the construction of a new fast food center with alleged municipal building permit. That is when the Bostandik local administration suddenly turned against the project. After winning 3 suits, it now seeks penal sanctions and demolishing of the buildings raised. According to the district official Viktor Kim, the administration acts solely in the best interests of local residents. The situation is escalated by district residents. They complain about the smell of vinegar and persisting noise produced by Aroma LLP. At the same time, Kurbanqul Usmanova is concerned about the possibility of losing her job. The woman has been working here for 4 years, and she doubts she can find another employment at her retirement age. We are so tired of these officials and their inspections, which will not let us work properly. The staff is great at Aroma, and people of my age are valued here for their professionalism and responsibility. Yelena Raikova is not going to give up. 1.5 million euros invested in production and equipment must not only be assimilated but also returned to the bank with due interest. The entrepreneur is prepared to continue fighting against local officials and appeal to the Supreme Court, as well as MPs or even the United Nations Human Rights Committee, if everything else fails.
8 citizens of Kazakhstan have fell victim to slavery in the Russian capital. Members of one of the Moscow's youth organizations did manage to release them. It is noteworthy that the formerly captive Kazakhstanis were forcibly held by their compatriots. The entrepreneurs took the passports of young men and women away. Some of them have been working there and living in the storage room from several months to 6 years. Moreover, they have already started a family. According to some sources, the owners of the grocery store were in collision with the local police. One of the girls who was taken to hospital managed to contact her relatives. They turned to volunteers for help. At the moment, all released are staying in one of the volunteers' flats. They are helped to collect all necessary documents to return to their homeland. Almost all of them are from Shymkent. She was there for only a month, and you were there for an entire year. Is this correct? You've seen a lot. You saw that woman beating up girls, and you saw her beating us. You saw her eating expired food, us eating expired food. We didn't have a chance to escape. There are 20 cells above you. The Attorney General's breakthrough project was an increase of Kazakh employees in Almaty companies, announced the regulatory agency on Thursday. According to the office, there are a little over 3,000 foreign employees left in the southern city, and most of them top managers. In the next story, our crew attempted to find out how the state was able to achieve such impressive results.
Almaty is leading all Kazakhstan cities in the number of local employees and companies, reported the city prosecutor's office on Thursday. Officials called the reduction of foreign staff a breakthrough project. Some companies even managed to increase the number of Kazakh employees from 20 to 200. Natalia Bigbaytyrova considers this an organic process. Her job is to manage human resources, and nowadays only about 7%, or 20 people in her audit company, are foreigners. First of all, I believe that foreign specialists are needed to train local staff. 20 years ago, such companies did not exist on the local market. Our firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers, is one of the big fours, and clients expect us to give them very high-quality service regardless of where the company is represented. In the meantime, the composition of foreign staff in the president's administration is not dropping. According to the Times, the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair agreed on a new 2-year consulting services contract with Kazakhstan, with the reward reportedly reaching up to 16 million British pounds.
Kazakhstan continues its quest to find a secret to longevity. This topic was discussed at the second international conference in Nazarbayev University. Sadly, search for the elixir of youth, which the national leader spoke numerous times about, has been unsuccessful so far. However, scientists still hold out hopes that they will find it.
The bio-yogurt Ner was featured at the conference dedicated to extending life expectancy. It won't be able to do just that, but it can improve your health. It contains useful microorganisms extracted from fermented camel and mare's milk, as well as buttermilk. In addition, it contains dietary fibers, fish origin collagen, and prebiotic components to substantially extend the effects of wholesome strains. The invention of Kazakh scientists have already passed all necessary lab testing, and clinical trials are next. If they can prove the declared effectiveness, the product will soon appear on the store shelves. Manufacturers says it will be especially good for senior citizens. For instance, for people like Ulbala Akhbaykazi, this resident of southern Kazakhstan celebrated her 114th birthday last year. Even on election day, Ulbala was happy for a chance to cast her vote for the veteran president and then continue to enjoy her favorite drinks. I will vote for our head of state. I am glad that I lived so long to do my part during the election. Perhaps I reached this age because I drink fermented camel and mare milk every day while abstaining from tea. In addition, despite my age, I still look after myself. Every self-respecting woman must do so in any age. The creators of NER also remind the population that good nutrition, an environment, and the right approach to social issues can extend one's life. Things like elixirs of life is for alchemists to discuss, not scientists. But I am not an alchemist, and in fact a scientist, and so I treat it more like a legend. Foreign professors also share the same pragmatic view on the topic. They emphasize that even though Kazakhstan is a developing country, it allocates the same level of funds for research as most developed states. This, however, is unlikely to produce results expected by the ruling elite. Over the coming decades, we may develop a drug that will significantly reduce the morbidity level among the elderly. Of course, we do not know when this drug will be invented and by how much it will reduce the aging threshold. If the recipe will eventually be discovered, scientists say that it will be affordable to anyone. At the same time, the authorities reported about the significant number of senior citizens during the recent census, hinting that this could potentially represent a serious burden to the budget. Now, raising retirement age and increasing working hours is seen as one of the options to reduce public spending. Longevity could be a good argument in this dispute.
Kazakh senators once again expressed anger with discriminatory policies in the customs union. If 2 weeks ago they were dissatisfied with an insufficient amount of members hailing from Kazakhstan within the union's central apparatus, now they are outraged with Astana, which is endowing Russian customs officials with diplomatic privileges in Kazakhstan, thus creating many concessions in accommodation within the territory of the republic.
Senator Ikram Abdirbekov is wondering why the leadership of Russian customs officers and their deputies, along with their family members, are granted the same privileges as employees of foreign embassies and consulates in Kazakhstan. According to the MP, they even possess diplomatic immunity. Fellow parliamentarians supported the senator and requested to urgently review the situation in order to reach the consensus on the matter. Moreover, the upper house MPs requested to provide quantitative restrictions for the number of Russian customs representatives. According to senators, the current situation in some respects only reinforces the dominance of Russia within the customs union. How can we talk about parity when there are only 10 representatives of Kazakhstan's customs committee working in Russia, while the number of their Russian counterparts in Kazakhstan already reached 57, taking into account a small economic volume in comparison to that of Russia?
From now on, there will be less state employees on the government's payroll, while newcomers will be put under a lie detector test. Head of the Civil Service Agency, Alikhan Baymenov, spoke to journalists about the draft law on civil service. Authors of the document believe it will keep public officers from receiving bribes and will set the work on the government on course of its direct responsibilities. When will the era of meritocracy begin is yet unknown, but Alikhan Baymenov himself is not expecting positive effects to come into force too soon.
In general, the bill will deal with the stepping up disciplinary and ethic control, personnel management information system and rules of teams movements within the country, which could take place only with the permission of the president. Alikhan Baymenov, the head of the Civil Service Agency, believes all these measures are meant to increase public trust in officials. The bill will be sent to the MPs for review next Monday, so it is not yet clear when the new regulations will be enforced. It would be wrong to expect that starting tomorrow or on March 1st everything and everywhere will change. Just like with any cultural changes, it will be done gradually, step by step. It is a part of our corporate culture.
A new method of fighting cattle lifters has been designed in Pavlodar region. Owners of private farmsteads are offered to install GPS navigation as a brand iron for cattle. The project was showcased to local authorities and is now set to be promoted in villages. We take examine of this satellite marvel in the next report.
The operation concept of cattle protection system is quite simple. It requires a special sensing device whose signal is received by a GPS satellite to be fixed on the animal's neck. If a cow happens to cross the specified borderline, the owner will be notified of that via their telephone or computer. I'm going to try to steal a few cows that belong to Alexander and see if he becomes aware of the cattle lifting attempt. All right, let's go. Move. Oh, I see the cows have started moving faster. Now let's detect their location. The cottager of the Kanjakol village situated near Pavlodar, Alexander Pisotsky, has become an inadvertent pace setter. A year ago, his cow herd disappeared from the pasture. The animals were found in the forest the next day. That is when he had an idea to track cattle through a satellite. To me, this looks like a very convenient protection against cattle lifters. They're everywhere, stealing cattle around the region and entire Kazakhstan. I strongly recommend acquiring these devices. They do help. For now, the pioneer himself is the only one using his pasturing method. However, the local policeman immediately noted the potential advantages Alexander's idea could bring into their routine, even more so as the number of abductors keep increasing. We see this as a very efficient remedy. That is why today we're going to propose testing it to evaluate the results. If it appears to be as effective as we think. However, Irina Abanina, the fellow villager of Alexander Pisotsky, is rather skeptical about the change adoption. The woman with over 10 years of smallholding experience believes that any innovation should first be battled out. First of all, this is something totally new, something no one has tried before. That is why I cannot say with confidence whether it will turn out good or bad. If someone had similar positive experiences in the past, we would feel more confident about the innovation. But right now, I cannot say anything for certain. It still remains to be seen whether remote pasturing will gain popularity among the Pavlodar region community. For now, the villagers prefer the old way of doing things and continue hiring shepherds.
The first Kazakh animated feature, Why Does the Shallow Have a Horntail, is marking its 45th anniversary. In almost half a century, animation in Kazakhstan has not become a self-sufficient industry. Small, privately held short animated film studios are still awaiting their large government contracts, while the main audience has already chosen its heroes. And they are not Aldar Kose or Yertastik, but SpongeBob and Spider-Man.
Why does a swallow have a horntail? A few generations of Kazakhs knew the answer to this question. This cartoon marked the beginning of the domestic animation production 45 years ago. Cartoons, however, have never grown into a full-scale industry. Upon the collapse of the Soviet Empire, the animators of Kazakh Film Studio were laid off, while the production substantially reduced.
Через анимацию наиболее интенсивно происходит воспитание.
It is the animation that contributes towards the most intensive education in terms of culture, language, and patriotism. China enclosed itself from the rest of the world for a reason, while watching only homemade productions. The intention here is to educate their citizens.
Для чего это делается? Ну, естественно, для воспитания своих граждан.
Modern values are formed by American and Japanese animators. Alexander Tumentsov is far from being Kazakhstan's Walt Disney, as it is impossible to make profit locally with animated fairy tales. Instead, Tumentsov takes on government orders and advertising. In the meantime, there are 20 episodes of new cartoons on his desk, which he simply cannot get released.
Если это реклама, она считается анимационная реклама, она дороже.
If you take ads, animated ones are more expensive. The same with state-commissioned projects. They are also worth good money. So it is very profitable in general. However, if we're talking about creativity, when it is the audience you care about, as opposed to the customer, then it does not pay at all.
Не для заказчика, а для зрителя, тогда это абсолютно невыгодно.
The Ministry of Culture has been paying attention to animation for only 2 years. Right now, the production of a 3-minute cartoon costs up to $25,000. Private Shymkent studio does not have this type of funds. This is roughly a Kazakh version of Nickelodeon's SpongeBob, only with no demand. There are times when we have no projects and no work. We cannot even pay our staff. Therefore, sometimes our guys consider changing professional occupations, as the wages are beyond low. The 5th grader Olga Sudakova knows every modern cartoon character. None of them is created in Kazakhstan. It is feasible that she would have enjoyed local animation, but it is simply not available. Understandably, SpongeBob is now more familiar. SpongeBob always helps his friends and never abandons them. He always plays with them. He always thinks about them and visits them. Local animators and animation directors produce only an hour and a half worth of animation per year. In contrast, Russia produces over 100 hours, with China boasting up to 20,000 hours annually. Animators say that besides millions of dollars in budgets, there also should be an ideological concept in order for children to recognize their heroes.
That is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching. Stay well.